Hi, welcome to the Guitar Department. I'm your host, Joe Alton, and I'm sitting here today with Dave Descharme-Jones.
Hi.
And together, we're going to take a look at 4 separate guitar rigs and have a little bit of advice as to which ones you might want to get if you were Christmas shopping, especially those of you who might be shopping for either your first guitar or shopping for a guitar for somebody else. There's a lot of guitar players out there who end up getting their first guitar for Christmas, and I think between the two of us, we can help you avoid a couple mistakes here and there. And so I want to start with the one closest to you, Dave. We've got this Austin. This is, all of these were from Riemann Music, but they're pretty comparable to the types of things you would find at any notable guitar shop, especially locally. Dave, you work at Up-Tempo, correct? Up-Tempo Music in Beaverdale. You can also find them at Pro Music Center or Ye Olde Guitar Shop. There's all sorts of places around here. Go ahead and take a second on that one. So we've got it running through a Frontman 10G, which is also the cheapest amp you can buy.
You know, this is a traditional looking, sort of based on a Fender Stratocaster. So it's set up like a Fender with a 5-way pickup selection switch. You know, you got three pickups, and so you can dial in some different tones. You know, the amp is light, portable.
And it comes with one button too.
Yeah.
So right now you've got it on the clean setting.
Okay, and then
we
you
hit
can
that.
kind of rock it out.
We have a gain knob on there. There we go.
You know, so you're set to rocker.
That's a pretty good rig for what it is, and it's actually only a combined price of $200. That guitar is $99 new, and I want to stress this: if you're paying less than $100 for a new guitar, you're not buying a guitar. You're buying a toy, most likely. And that's the first real message here: is stay away from department stores, Walmart, Target, places that sell the Adam Levine first act guitars, stuff like this. You're going to find much better deals out at the actual guitar shops. What do you think of that one? How's the neck?
Well, it feels pretty good, you know. I mean, for a guitar at this price range, the frets are nice and smooth on the edges. The action, just the way it is right now, plays real easy. You know,
I thought it felt like it had a decent build quality too, for what it is.
Yeah, it really does. You know, very similar to a Fender, so that's kind of what you're going to expect.
The one thing I noticed about this guitar, and this is a real nitpicky thing, but the pickups don't exactly have the clarity that I'd come to expect out of a real Fender or something comparable, a Yamaha Pacifica, something like that. They have a little more of a muffled feel to them. A decent starter guitar, though, for what it is.
Yeah, definitely.
And like I said, for a combined total of $200, that's $99 on the guitar, $99 on the amp. I would say it's a pretty good deal. I would also stress, if you can do better, maybe try. And what I mean by that is that we've got the second rig here. This one is sort of your standard starting rig. We've got a Fender Affinity Series Stratocaster, the Squire Series. And what that means is, so like the Austin here, the Austin is a bit of a knockoff of the Fender Stratocaster. Almost every guitar company makes a model that looks like a Stratocaster, but is not actually a Fender Stratocaster. And so eventually Fender started doing that themselves. And so this is Fender's own knockoff. The Squire Series is a little bit more affordable, maybe made out of a little bit less quality hardware than some of the others that you'll see here, but they're still pretty good. We've got the same 5-way toggle switch that we had on the Austin. That's a pretty standard design. And it's sort of, there's a little more intricacy to it, but it gets darker as you move the switch up. And it's sort of like mic placement. You're actually selecting which of the pickups you'd like to use, and that's what actually affects the tone. And then we've got the tone knobs, which on a Fender, they actually do pretty well. I've had several guitars where I didn't think the tone knobs did a whole lot, but Fender has always done a pretty good job of making a solid EQ. And then we've got the amp. The amp here is a Fender Champ 20, man, it's just loaded. So the other amp, the Frontman 10G, has one button that can get you some gain. But if I scooch in here, I'm going to switch this, and you might see that the light just switched from red to green. And go ahead and turn our reverb down a little bit. Just a little bit of sort of raw crunch, and then it just sort of gets heavier as you get further to the right. You keep going clockwise, we end up on British, which is sort of their way of modeling what a Marshall amp should sound like. We've talked about before that Marshall is a British company. Okay, go ahead and turn that up a little bit. It's got that sort of raw power chord classic rock sound. So that one's pretty fun too. Great build quality. These are the types of guitars that, again, it's $250, but it's going to last you quite a while. Which brings us to the Schecter, which this one, by the way, that last rig, the amp and the guitar combined are $400. So we've got $250 for the guitar, another $150 for the amp. And you can mix and match too if you're out shopping, you know what I mean? You can get the cheaper guitar but the nicer amp, or the nicer guitar and the cheaper amp. Personally, I would probably go with the nicer guitar in that instance, if you have to choose one. But that brings us to the next step up here, and we've got a, this is a Schecter Omen Extreme. And it's in the $400 to $500 range. And it's the first one we've got that actually has humbuckers in it. I love the term humbucker. You can always tell when America named something. So the purpose here, this one actually has a coil tap too, which we'll get into in a second. But basically, if you only have one of the two pickups active, you might get some electronic signal coming through the amp.
Kind of like Fenders would do.
Yeah, exactly.
Coil.
Both the Fender and the Austin, they have single coils. They have a very distinct sound, but they have that one trait about them. And that prompted people to invent the humbucker. If you have two pickups active at the same time, the signals counteract each other, and it just comes out a little bit cleaner. Maybe a little bit louder too. You want to try this one?
Yeah. The thing I like about humbuckers is that they just give you some meat.
Yeah,
you know?
they do.
And,
very thick sound.
Yeah. Yeah.
Of course, we're on the clean setting on the amp here too, but this is a Boss Katana Mark II with the 50-watt speaker in it. So we got quite a bit of options here. And just to sort of briefly spin a dial here, we'll switch it from...
Yeah, you can have a lot of fun with that.
Yeah, a lot of fun. He's over here flexing. So that was the crunch setting. We've got three more here to go. Here's the lead setting.
Okay. You hear this one sustain all day, right? Yeah.
And got a little bit of, they add a little bit of delay and reverb on it too with that setting.
Which adds to, really helps you, the sound sort of bloom around it.
One of the cool things about the Katanas, by the way, is that we've got this little power control switch up here. that lets us put it on standby, half watt, 25 watt, or 50 watt. And for you or I, that's the difference between playing in a bedroom or playing on a stage with a drummer. For you out there buying gifts for your kids, it might mean the difference between you regretting the decision or not. So right now we've got it on the 0.5 watt setting.
Yeah,
I'm just going to
half a
flip
watt.
it. Here's 25.
Yeah, that you can feel that.
Yeah,
you know?
you can feel that, and that's still only half power.
Yeah.
We've still got another 50 or 25 watts to go here, and we're only at about 3/4 volume on the master control too. Now we're gonna go back to half watt and take it to brown.
Oh.
Do you know what brown means?
Yeah. Do I know any brown? Oh,
Yeah.
you know.
Now, so this amp is $279, and then this guitar was listed, I believe, at $499 on the wall at Riemann. So that's pretty comparable to where you would find it anywhere. This is a Mexican-made Telecaster, which is sort of the second highest production model you can get. The American-made is the preferred, but they make them all over. I have a made-in-Japan Stratocaster that's amazing. The Squire here was likely made in either Indonesia, maybe China.
Yeah.
So Mexican-made is actually a really good spec point for these. And the thing about the Telecaster is that it's kind of the Model T of guitars. They just sort of took a plank of wood and cut it into shape. And there's no body contours, there's no elbow contour, there's no really assistance at all. You just sort of get a plank of wood with a neck on it, and it has stayed that way since the day it was made. We've got 2 pickups, a 3-way toggle switch.
Yeah, people mistake the Tele as being like, oh, this, it's what you see only in country bands,
And it certainly does have that capability, but
of course,
it's used all over the place.
But
Bruce
but you
Springsteen
see
plays one of
people with, jazz players playing Teles. I mean, they're. I call them the Swiss Army knife of guitars.
Yeah, and say Prince was a big Tele guy.
Yes, yeah.
And he was not a countryman.
No, not by any means. But I used to say, I've got a couple of Teles. I got a couple of 52, reissues that I've always called. One of them I've said is the best Les Paul I've ever owned. Because it really cuts. It bites. The pickups sound great. So it's not just a little country but you can rock on it, jazz it out,
And of
good
course,
for singer-songwriter stuff.
And we're running it through our most expensive
yeah.
of all the amps too. So that guitar, I believe that listed at $850 on our wall at Riemann's. So again, it should be comparable just about anywhere else. This amp is currently listed for $949. So we've got a $1,000 guitar and a $1,000 amp. That rig cost 10 times the one we started with.
Yeah.
And again, I don't imagine most of you are going to buy a $2,000 guitar rig for a Christmas present for somebody. If you're planning on doing that, talk to them first, maybe. But man, the Tone Master, you've never played through one of these, you said?
No, I hadn't yet. Yeah.
These are amazing. They've got the same basic sound that you would get in this case from a deluxe reverb, but at a quarter of the weight. This thing only weighs 24 pounds.
Yeah.
And pick it up really easily. And it's got great reverb on it. Here, let me crank that up for a second.
Yeah.
Sounds like you're playing in a subway tunnel. All right, let's bring that back down to reasonable. And then we've also got, in this case, we've got a vibrato.
Oh, yeah. Yeah, I love that.
Yeah.
That's a nice amp.
And it's just a great sound coming out of
Yeah.
that sound. I mean, for what you're paying for this rig, you really can't go wrong, right?
No, and a lot of pro players, have kind of moved into that kind of amp where, I'm way into tube amps. I think they sound and feel a certain way, and
I'm gonna say 10 years ago, this would have been heresy
yes,
to put
right.
a solid state into a deluxe reverb casing,
Yeah.
and call it the same amp. But
And then try to say it sounds just like it.
yeah, for Fender to put this out on their own,
Yeah.
it really says something, and it is. It's a fantastic amp.
I mean, it sounds and feels like the real deal.
Yeah, it really does. And it's just as loud too. So we're at 5 right now.
Man, yeah,
It's a
I
good
would
sound.
take that on a gig.
So I think in conclusion, what I would like to hammer home is that you shouldn't buy a guitar from a toy store just because it's cheaper. If it's in the electronics department, you need to go to a store that doesn't have an electronics department but has a guitar section. A guitar department.
Yeah. And if you buy from a music store that deals in this, usually the instruments that you're going to buy have been, looked after, set up. And when I say set up, meaning, the neck's straight, the electronics are working the way they're supposed to, the actions set, so it's not hard to play, the string set kind of close to the neck, plays in tune, intonation, all that stuff's kind of done. So, if you're buying off Amazon or you're going to, a Walmart kind of thing, you're not going to get that kind of attention. You're going to get what comes out of the box, and it may not be, what it looks like on the cover. So.
And by reputation, you get sort of the same thing out of Guitar Center, which again, Guitar Center is a great shop, but locally, if you buy from a local store, you'll likely have somebody who is there to sort of tech the guitars. For instance, at Raymond's, we've got Nate Carlson, and at Up Tempo,
Yeah,
we've
I
got
do that.
Dave Descharme Jones. At Pro Music Center, there's a guy there too, and everybody has somebody who's there to make sure the guitars that are sold are serviced and that they're well taken care of. They're not just out of the box and on the wall for somebody to buy. So make sure you shop local, and make sure you shop smart, and go buy a guitar for your kids. Well, we're back, and I'm sitting here with Descharme Jones, Dave and Annie Descharme Jones. Man, just so much to talk about with you guys. You guys are everywhere in the scene right now. Monday Night Live, Porch Fest, your own band, your own freelance work. The list just goes on and on. I actually want to start with a bit of your bio. Doing some due diligence, I looked up on your website and got some of your albums and started listening and everything. And your bio basically says that you guys met in Northwest Iowa in your teens. So sparks fly. You guys moved to
flew.
You guys moved to
Yes.
California together. Tell me about California. You guys spent 7 years there.
Yeah.
in the
We
Bay
got
Area.
married down here, and 2 weeks later we took off for California
Mm-hmm.
in a truck with hauling our little MG that we drove at the time, and
And a friend of ours from here who was a bass player, he went out with us. So the three of us just trekked out, not knowing where we were going, what we were going to do when we got there. I mean, we knew we were going to Northern California.
Sure.
wherever we've gone, we've sort of landed, put music together, and really worked hard. And so we had a guy who was, I was kind of helping Dave book the band, and I was not performing at that time, but he was working with this.
But she was helping out in the studio. She was singing and
Sure.
But you know, I think at one point Neil Schon from Journey was kind of off doing some more jazzy kind of stuff on the side, and so he got interested in what we were doing and produced a demo for us, and we worked together with him a little bit. And
then you know, this was back before you had the opportunity to record your own record.
Right.
You
You had to
know, so
actually go
you
into
kind
the
of needed
studio.
a deal.
Yeah.
And so that's what everybody was doing. They were kind of just posing themselves to get a deal.
And what time period are we talking
This
about?
was the
What year?
80s.
The 80s.
Yeah.
Excellent.
And so
we were working at the record plant in Sausalito, did some recording there.
yeah, and so we got some financing and some management, and that's how they hooked us up with Neil Schon, and he produced, basically what these all were just demos, but they were made pretty well and used to try to secure a record deal.
Sure.
You know, so we'd make the songs and then they'd push them out, and we'd collect all the rejection letters, and and then we went from Neil to the last attempt was using Mike Klink, who was an engineer on all these Starship records and Journey records and Eddie Money and stuff, and he wanted to be a producer, and so he kind of got his feet wet with us and produced some stuff for us. And then right after that, he got handed Guns N' Roses, and that's history.
The rest
Yeah.
is history.
Yeah.
There, yeah.
Because nobody else would go with them. You know, the
Right.
story was that nobody wanted, seasoned producer even wanted to mess with them, because they were kind of a handful, I
They
guess.
probably just met Axl and were
Yeah,
like,
yeah.
we're out.
Yeah.
That's what most of the band did.
Yeah, but
actually.
Mike stepped in, and
So I think
rest
we
is
learned
history.
we really learned a lot in California.
Sort of cut your
we were
teeth out there,
there at a very young age, and really interacted with a lot of professional, folks and studios, and we met a lot of interesting aging rock stars.
Yeah,
in we lived in Marin
We
County.
lived in Marin County, so the home
I
of the
say
Grateful
aging; they were
Dead.
probably.
Sure.
Yeah.
I say aging; they were probably like in their 30s.
Yeah, probably, but they were older
Isn't it
than
weird how
us.
time
and,
works like that, though?
and so the Grateful Dead, Journey, Huey Lewis and the News. I mean, they were, all these guys were right there in that little community. So, you'd see them every now and then.
So eventually, and again, I'm taking from your bio here, you guys read an article in Rolling Stone,
You got that,
and
right?
you just zip off to Austin, Texas, which is,
I-
of course, a prolific music town, great place for any musician to be, just in general. I'm curious, what was the substance of the article?
Well,
that-
it was
that would
the
just change
It was the
the-
timing.
It was they had a section called the Cutting Edge, and so they listed all these new kind of music scenes that were, blooming around the country. So you had, I think Athens, Georgia was big because of REM or something, maybe.
Minneapolis
Minneapolis,
was
of
featured.
course,
And so we're coming out of the 80s at this point
Yeah.
into that.
Yes.
Obviously, there's a big tonal shift in the music industry
Yeah.
about to happen anyway.
Yeah, and Austin was a little more laid back, kind of reminded us of Des Moines a little bit,
Yeah. that.
and it felt like the Midwest.
And kind of a very organic music scene. So we had been, in California, it was all, shows for record companies and so much pressure. And we went to Austin, and, people were like on stage in their shorts, and, it was so laid back.
Yeah, and I was, we came from a place where we rehearsed and rehearsed and rehearsed and rehearsed. We had a rehearsal room that we locked out monthly,
Right.
and that's what we did most of the time. And then we'd play a couple of showcase shows, There, you went down and you actually went to work playing. And I remember the first band I got into, they were like, okay, here's the tape, first gigs, Friday, whatever. I go, well, when are we going to rehearse? They looked at me like, rehearse? And
We're trying to make money.
so that's kind of where, the whole thing was like, no, if you're going to work and you're going to be a player, you got
Yeah.
to step up and be a player.
Yeah.
We're not grooming for a record deal. We're working musicians, and this is what we do,
That's
And
one of the things that I learned, and I mentioned off camera that I knew Taz Grant. He was one of my first teachers, actually, when I was in high school, and sort of a few years later than with the era you're talking about. But knowing him and taking lessons at his house sort of informed my decision to be a musician in general, because it showed me that you didn't have to be a rock star. You didn't have to achieve some dream the way you would if you wanted to be a baseball player or an athlete or something like that, which obviously was never in the cards for me. But this whole idea that he's living in his home, his wife works at the post office, he's got a studio in his basement, he teaches, he performs, and he contributes. He makes as much money as anybody.
Yeah.
And that's what a professional musician actually
That's
is.
right.
It's not so much about fandom and playing big shows, and
that's right.
100%.
it's a grind.
I just am so behind that. And, when people are like, wondering, why didn't you make it? Or why didn't, whatever. And I'm always like, what are you talking about? We have made an incredible life of music and met incredible musicians. And, I'm so grateful every day for everything that we are, everything we have here in Des Moines and things that we learned in California and Austin. So yes.
Yeah, sort of the version of the dream, so to speak.
I've often wondered too, if we were in California and we had gotten a record deal, would it have ruined our lives?
Well, it really could,
It
because
could
we
have.
saw a lot of that,
Yeah.
These bands getting their deal and then getting all this money thrown at them, and then nothing happening.
Yeah.
I mean, nothing happening, and they become almost a pariah in the business. Nobody wants to touch them, anymore.
Right.
Oh, they had that deal with that, nothing happened with them. Pass,
Yeah.
And so then they struggle with that. Like some of them couldn't move on,
Or a lot of them, it really happened. And then you look at where they are now, and you're just like, oh my God.
That's the other thing. Is
Yes.
Lost touch.
You think about the bands that had their 15 minutes, the one-hit wonders out there. As a kid, we used to sort of laugh about that, but that's actually a hugely high success, high level of success for an artist of any kind.
Right.
Yeah.
But then to try to meet that expectation over and over, it's just unrealistic. It's you don't get to be Aerosmith or what have you.
Right. So, I've always taken, I feel successful. I feel that we've created some level of success for ourselves,
Yeah. I'm wondering if we could talk for a second about Monday Night Live.
Sure.
This is at XBK. You guys are obviously a major part of it. You guys sit in with all the different musicians there, but it's very rarely just Ducharme Jones being featured. You're backing somebody else up.
Yeah. And
tell me how that developed.
Well, it started with Scott Sutherland, the
Okay.
bass player.
Bass player, yeah.
You familiar with Scott?
Yeah, I know Scott.
At the Greenwood about 5 years ago.
Yeah. And it was, actually, I kind of stumbled in on that. When we moved here, just a quick backstory on Scott and I, we both shared a drummer. So I played in a band in Austin with a drummer that he played with on the road. And so when the drummer buddy of ours heard we were moving to Des Moines, he called me and he said, you gotta meet this guy, Scott Sutherland. And so we came up here, and through some friends, I go, oh yeah, we know Scott, he plays Monday nights down at the Greenwood. Let's go down and see him. Went down and he had this like jazz fusion trio with Rob Ankham and it was scary, you know. And
Those guys are good.
And it
So-
was Monday nights from 9 to midnight. So
Okay.
it was kind of a quiet
Yeah,
crowd.
there were
there
like
weren't a lot
6
of people
people.
there, but the music was amazing.
Yeah.
6 people there. So on their break, you know, I get introduced and we get talking and this and that, and then it comes to, why don't you sit in with us? And you know, I kind of begged off of it. I was like, no, I'm not really, you know, that. But a few weeks later, Scott gets in touch with me. He goes, hey, I'm thinking about doing this thing where we feature an artist. You know, would you like to come do it? And so I drafted up a song list, sent it to him. We did, you know, it was Ankam, me, and Scott, and Russ Tomlinson. It was the first time.
It's a heck of a lineup, actually.
And we did this show, and it went over pretty good. So that little group kind of stayed together. And then those guys would bring in other, like they did me, you know, and they would back them up.
Sure.
So I wasn't part of that yet. And then what?
It wasn't too long, a few months later maybe. And then the Monday nights kind of continued. It was great music with not too many people there.
Yeah, but we changed it to 7 o'clock.
That-
Wrapped it
that's
up, and then
that's when it was a game changer.
and then people really started
Right.
coming out.
It
And
is
then-
Monday.
Yeah, yeah. And
But we
did
took a
that
break.
for a
We took a
while.
break during the pandemic, you know,
Yeah.
of course, for
Sure.
quite a while.
Of course.
And when we came back, you know, we really just started thinking that we would like to be able to maybe take it to the next level. And so we were just thinking, how could we do that? And we just needed a little change in venue to have, you know, a little more control over sound and lighting and things like that. So that's when we approached XBK, you know, to see if they might be interested in having us, and they opened their doors to us, and
Yeah.
so it's been a really busy year with Monday Night Live.
Yeah, we started it there in March.
Yeah.
And it's been week in,
Just
week
having a
out,
regular-
you know,
yeah.
except for a few holiday, you know, that we've taken off. It's been, you know,
Sure.
it's a big workload.
Yeah, that's a lot.
Yeah, so the whole idea is just, I mean, we've had so many different genres and different artists,
Mm-hmm.
and so what they do is send us some material, you know, usually around 15 or 18 songs, and Dave and Russ and Scott are busy, you know, kind of charting things out, and sometimes there's time for a brief rehearsal, maybe at sound check beforehand, or on Sunday morning at our house every once in a while. But then Monday night comes around and everybody pulls
Yeah,
it together,
pull it
and,
together
and puts on the show.
and it's
yeah.
so fun. Yeah.
Isn't that the thrill of it, though? To have that sort of chaos, that uncertainty of knowing how it's going to come out, and then having everybody
Yeah,
pull their parts
it-
together.
it's pretty amazing
Yeah.
because we record every night too, and I
Yeah, it's
get
live
the,
streamed,
I
too.
get the tracks, and I've done some remixing, and I've been like, wow, you know, we really did pull it off, you know, it really came off sounding
Is that
good.
to say there might be a Monday Night Live compilation coming out?
We're hoping so, yeah.
That would be amazing.
Well, actually, IPR is going to feature, we're doing 3 hours of live tracks for IPR. They're going to do a Monday Night Live all access on New Year's, I think it's New Year's Eve. And so they will be featuring, we're trying to put almost every artist we've worked with through maybe September, early October. So we have mixed and mastered some of those live tracks. So we actually do have
Yeah,
a
and
thing
during the
coming
show, Annie does an interview with the artist, usually mid-show,
Okay.
which the audience seems to enjoy. You know,
Yeah.
she asks questions about, you know, kind of like what you're doing here, and
There'll be snippets of that in there.
yeah, and there'll be bits of the interviews cut in with some of the songs.
That's excellent. That's. I think that's what this scene needs, is to just sort of get everybody exposed, get some stories out there,
Yeah.
and just, you know, develop the diversity, show off what the city has to offer, and that's one avenue to do it. But man, what a great contribution, you know. I wanted to ask you guys also about Porch Fest, because that's a really cool project you guys have been a major part of also. Tell me about that.
Well, I'd heard about Porch Fest. You know, it started in New York 20 years ago or so, And so I'd read about it, and then we got invited to play Porch Fest in Kansas City.
Yeah, just out of the blue. And I'd
In
never
2019,
heard of
somebody
Porch Fest.
reached out, and that was so amazing because, you know, Kansas City has these big historic neighborhoods, and they had 3 neighborhoods participating and hundreds of artists. And so we went down in October of 2019 and played that show, and then drove home, and we were like, why is this not happening in Des Moines?
Yeah, or everywhere for that matter.
Yeah,
It
like
happens in a lot of places.
Des Moines, but Des
surprisingly,
Moines is so rich with music. So we mentioned it to some friends, and Jack Doherty, who owns Captain Roy's, lives in the Union Park neighborhood, and he latched onto it. He was like, I want us to do this in Union Park. And then the pandemic hit, so
Yeah, we put it on ice.
we put that on the back burner. But this spring, around March or so, Jack contacted us and said, I've reached out to Polk County. We have a little grant to do Porch Fest. Will you guys help us pull it together? So we met with a group of Union Park neighborhood
Neighborhood.
organization folks, and on a weekly basis, pretty much through the summer. And
Came up with the plan and what we needed. And
we
brainstormed,
invited a
you know.
bunch of our artist friends to come participate. Yeah,
And nobody said no.
oh,
good
everybody
feeling
was
too, isn't it?
excited.
It was, yeah.
Yeah.
And some, you know,
So
not
we-
knowing how it was going to come off, you know, because you're like, oh God, we're going to book them and then they're going to play for nobody.
I know.
People
They're
showed
gonna
up.
hate
though.
us. Oh,
There were audiences.
It was a beautiful day.
600 or
and-
700 people showed up.
and
It was
people
really
were
fun.
all over that neighborhood.
And so how does it work? It's just performing on specific porches throughout the neighborhood? Is there one porch that works as a stage? And
No, there were
bands just come
18
in and out?
porches.
Okay.
And so we invited people in the neighborhood to offer up their porch. And then we connected them with artists.
Okay.
And then, you know, we just,
And each artist played for about, you know,
an hour.
no more than that.
We kind of staggered them so you could kind of wander through the neighborhood.
Sure.
And
A bit like a street festival, like 8035, something like this.
Yeah,
Except
a little more
within-
spread out, but not too bad, you know.
you know, I really kind of said to each artist, I don't know what to expect. I don't know what's going to happen here. But they were all like, this sounds so cool. We
Right.
really want, nobody turned us down. Everybody
Mm-hmm.
was excited, and it really was fun. So we're going to do it again. It'll be
Yes.
September 10th.
September 10th of 2023.
Yep.
Fantastic. Be on the lookout for that, everybody.
Yeah.
I wanted to ask you guys also about, you guys have 3 albums out.
We've got 3 albums and a few
And another one in the
holiday
works.
songs.
I was going to say, just
Yeah.
doing the math, you guys should be working on a 3rd
Yeah.
one, or a 4th one, I think.
We're pretty much we're pretty much putting together a live record and a new original record. So
A live Ducharme Jones record, or
Yes.
the okay,
Live
Yes.
Ducharme
Excellent.
Jones record.
excellent.
Yeah.
That'll be fun. You going to put them out together, or are you going to stagger them a little bit?
Not sure how we're going to release it yet.
Who knows?
You know? A lot of the live tracks are pretty much, you know, in the final stages of production. We've got a bunch of new songs written that we haven't really done anything. Maybe
We've kind of
short
demoed
a
them up.
demo here or there. Yeah, I mean, we've just been so busy.
Right.
And it's you know, it's good to be busy, but at the same
Sure.
time it takes time, and it takes time away from maybe, you know, what you
It's that grind
Yeah.
we were talking about.
it
It's-
kind of, yeah.
Um,
I'm not complaining, but I mean, there's only so much time, and you have to. you
Yeah.
know.
That's a good thing to be that busy, though. I have a couple of fun questions for you guys.
Yeah.
Because obviously you guys are a bit of a songwriting team, songwriting duo. Do you guys write songs about one another?
yeah,
Apparently, yeah. Apparently.
Have either of you ever written a song that you were hesitant to play for the other one?
Oh, I can't say I
can't think
have.
of one.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I haven't.
Nothing off limits?
I mean, at this point, there's pretty much no secrets.
That's true. That's fair.
Yeah.
Do you guys have a favorite song that the other one has written?
Oh, yeah. I mean, I think a song she wrote called Thrift Store Dresses is a badass tune.
That is a very good tune.
Um,
Do you have a favorite of his?
Oh, I have a number of favorites of his.
you just can't think of them right now.
One that he performed before we started writing together, Golden, is one of my favorites.
Golden, you cannot find anywhere.
I was curious about where some of this music, because you guys have been making music for
Yeah.
coming up on 4
we have some
decades now.
lost. We have some lost music, I think.
You know, back before we hooked up and started, you know,
Songwriting.
writing together and doing all that, I put together a couple of little records, but vanity projects that weren't signed to anything, and they were all over the map. I mean, there was all kinds of stylings on there,
Sure.
you know. I think the cool thing about us is we kind of honed a style, you know, even though, you know.
I think our songs are pretty eclectic, but we have
There's
something that
there's
sort
a
of sounds
sound
like
or a
us in every
style
song.
that sort of, yeah.
I love his song "Wherever You Go." I mean, there are so many songs that you do.
Do you guys have a least favorite that the other one wrote? Not
Oh.
to make you trash
Now
talk
that
each
might
other's
be
songs.
getting into an area that we don't really want to go into.
I don't mean to cause any,
There might
cause any
there
trouble.
might be one, but you know, we'll just let that go.
We'll just leave it up to the audience to figure out, right?
Yeah, because you know that's so true. You misread, you know, maybe it's not your favorite, but I tell you, you know, there's been many times people have come up and
Well, we have
stated
plenty of
that
songs.
that's their favorite song. Or they
Sure.
really love that song.
That is kind of funny. We have plenty of songs that we've written that never made it to a record.
Well, yeah, that's
You
good.
know.
But that's good, you know.
Yeah.
At least we have some bit of discretion, you know.
Right.
Do you have a favorite guitar solo or a favorite guitar riff that you've used in a song?
Oh yeah, you know, when I'm recording, I do all kinds of crazy stuff, you know.
I know.
A lot of stuff that I
I've been
can't,
listening.
that I don't even reproduce live, you know. Oh gosh.
And you guys aren't, your songwriting style isn't especially guitar riff heavy, like in the
Right.
Led Zeppelin sense of the
No,
word.
it's
It's
not.
more subtle than that. But
Yeah, it's more in the Americana style, you know, range. But
No, but there usually are little, like,
oh well,
I mean, this is
I think one of my favorites
Beautiful
is a
on You.
song called "Crazy Heart," and the solo on that's on our first album, and the solo on that I really love, and I play that live, that same solo.
you play it the same way you
Yeah,
recorded
I
it.
do, man.
Okay.
I just was like, I gotta learn that, and I gotta play it.
So you had to
Same.
relearn the solo that
Yes.
you improvised in the
Yes,
first place.
yes.
That's interesting.
That's the thing, you know. It's like, oh, that was cool, and then you move on, and then when you're rehearsing the song, you listen. And go, I don't even know what I was doing there. That is so crazy, you know. And so, you know, like some things, you know, I haven't even been able to figure out, like Two Satellites, the solo, middle solo on that. There's a lick in there that I'm like, what was I doing? You know, I imagined it one way, and when I sat down, I was like, that's not it at all. And so,
Do you have a favorite guitar player?
a bunch of them, you know.
I know that's an unfair question.
Yeah, you
As a
know,
guitar player, I know.
There's so many, and there's so many great players that I don't know the names of that I hear do stuff that's great. But people I pay attention to and kind of follow, you know, Jeff Beck has always been one of my faves. You know, he's just a guy that keeps reinventing and has a real unique thing.
He's really progressed the instrument.
When I was getting into, you know, kind of the bluesier stuff, somebody turned me on to Robin Ford. So, you know, I got way
John
into
Scofield. I love
Robin,
John Scofield.
I'd watch Hee Haw because, you know, every once in a while there, you know, Roy Clark would be you know,
Yeah.
screaming,
Oh, Roy
and
Clark was a
scorching
beast,
the
man.
neck, you know, on something. And so I'd sit through the hokey jokes and all that stuff and hope that somebody was going to take a solo in one of these songs. You know?
The gun battles where nobody gets shot.
Yeah, right. So I mean, yeah, I mean, I've got a bunch of, you know, players. I don't have a like particularly favorite, but
Yeah, people ask me all the time, "What's your favorite?" And I give them a list of 5, and then immediately I'm like, "Well, here's the next 5."
Yes, I mean,
and they're
I
really
could
not
go
in order. It's just
on.
this sort of
Yeah.
cloud of 10. Oh, here's another 5 for you.
And you know, how do you even compare like who's the best? I
Yeah.
really don't think you can. It's
Well,
just,
there isn't a best, but you can have a favorite. I feel like.
Yeah.
For me, I could listen to Tommy Emmanuel all
Oh,
day.
yeah, sure.
And he mostly, on his videos anyway, he plays a lot of older songs. He plays a lot of Chet Atkins, Doc Watson, stuff like this. But his original stuff.
Have you ever heard him on the Telecaster?
I have. Yeah, the dude's a
gosh.
beast. And his protege, Joe Robinson, is he's like all of 26 years old, and he's just as good. You watch both the two of them together, and it's just, you get blown away. And then there's guys like Tim Henson out there. I don't know if you know who Tim is, but playing the guitar in an entirely different way.
See, that's the thing.
Not
you
even
know, it's
comparable.
so reinvented. You know, everybody's coming up with crazy
Yeah.
new ways to play and new techniques, and you know, I just try to stay, you know, greased up enough to play my own stuff. All right, you know.
Well, I think we're running a little long here, but
Yeah, of
would
course,
you
we
guys
always
stick
do.
around and do a song for us?
sure.
All right. Well, thank you guys very much for being here.
Thank you for having us.
Desharm Jones, everybody.
We're going to do a song called Beautiful on You. This was on Vagabonds and Poets. I think it's the first track.
Yep.
Goes something like this. Use my key, unlock the door. Surprised it even fits here anymore. Coming home, the road behind. Forget where I've been, don't know where I'm going. 6 strings of my heart and soul, I'm told. Yeah, I think about the price I paid. And tonight, just like 1,000 dreams, I'm in your arms, and the rain comes down, silver and blue, and it's beautiful on you. Walk down the street with your hand in mine. At this moment there's no sense or time. Let's make tomorrow so far away. And tonight, just like 1,000 dreams, I'm in your arms, and the rain comes down, silver and blue, and it's beautiful on you.
silver and blue, and it's beautiful.
Yeah,
It's beautiful on you.
Oh,
It's beautiful on you.
yeah, the rain's coming down.
It's beautiful on you.
Oh, yeah.
It's beautiful on you.
Thank you for tuning into the Guitar Department. I've been your host, Joe Alton. I want to thank Dave and Annie Descharme-Jones for being here. Thank you guys very much.
Thank you.
This is a lot of fun. Be sure to check out Porch Fest 2023. Be sure to check out XBK Live Monday Night Live at XBK, excuse me.
Yep.
And be on the lookout for their 2 upcoming albums that they have coming out, 1 live, 1 studio. Lots of stuff coming out of the Descharme-Jones camp this next year, it sounds like. I also want to thank Riemann Music for lining us up with every guitar rig we had for our first segment, and our producer Jason Prine. Be sure to follow us on Facebook at facebook.com/theguitardepartment and our newly minted Instagram page at The Guitar Department. Would you like to play us out?
Sure.
A little 12-bar blues?
All righty.